everyone. Welcome to another edition of Bleeding Cool Chatter Comics, where we get some of the comic people to actually talk about comics on a comic book site. What do you know? Perish the thought. My name is Kaitlyn Booth. I am the head film writer here at Bleeding Cool, and I am joined by Jeremy.
Hello, I'm Jeremy. I write about collectibles for Bleeding Cool.
And Josh.
I am the nightmare that stalks Marvel and DC at night. I am the critical acclaimer. I write about comics and such for Bleeding Cool.
That reminded me of The Critic. Do you remember the TV show The Critic?
Oh, yeah.
I do. Yep.
John Lovett.
It stinks!
It stinks. Yes. And that actually can describe what Josh's feelings about this next comic we're going to cover. Yeah. What are we covering next?
Flash number 40, and I will get this out of the way. I love me Josh Williamson. He's one of my favorite comic book writers. Nailbiter is one of my favorite comics of the last decade. The Flash is one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. I am starting to think that the two don't mix very well.
Okay.
Josh, take it from here.
Oh, Barry, what are they doing to you? Flash is hands down my favorite DC hero. I love Barry Allen. I think he's like one of the most endearing, just kind of like good-hearted heroes that DC has in their roster. And I tried to stick out a lot of the Rebirth Flash. It was, to me, the book hasn't really been the same since BC Leto and Manapul were on it at the beginning of the New 52. Yeah. It seemed to kind of suffer in some kind of purgatory since then. I think it might be in hell now. Because, I'm not familiar with a lot of Williamson's work, but the Rebirth Flash, I think its best comparison is Dan Slott's Spider-Man. And at times, it's a little worse. And the thing is, Flash 40 isn't even the worst of, like, these issues I've read recently. But it's kind of emblematic. But it's emblematic of a lot of what's wrong with it. One of the most striking things about this book to me is how people, ironically, can go from like 0 to 60 on their emotions just like that. So everyone seems a little unhinged and like just snapping at each other for at times relatively minor transgressions. Mm-hmm. And this issue, to actually get to the story, is Grodd, Gorilla Grodd, is behind Black Hole, which is just essentially it's been the Flash's Hydra since the beginning of Rebirth. Except it's like, I guess Flash's AIM is probably a better comparison. They're like a tech obsessed organization that is fascinated with the Speed Force. And I actually have a rant about the Speed Force later. We're going to come back to that before this is over. And as it turns out, Grodd's been behind it, which it does make you wonder the kind of people who are like, you know what? I'm going to listen to that talking gorilla.
Yeah.
And it's led by this dude called Raijin, who's, named after a Japanese lightning storm god, like Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
That's not on the nose at all.
Yeah. And there's more Flashes. There are so many Flashes in this story. He keeps adding Flashes. He keeps giving people super speed powers and putting them in a Flashlight costume in a way that makes me think he's trying to recreate what Jeff Johns did for Green Lantern with like, hey, we have all these different flavors of Flash now. And to his credit, he's adding women Flashes. So that's something. There's not actually been, other than Jessie Quick, there's never really been a female speedster in DC.
I love Jessie Quick.
She's cool. But he just keeps adding Flashes. There's a new one named Avery. I'm not sure what her code name is yet. There was the Negative Flash. There's Godspeed. I think Raijin might be a Super Speed too.
There's two Wally.
There's two Wallies. There's old Wally and wee Wally, wee little Wally. He's promising to bring back Professor Zoom, Hunter Zolomon soon. There's the Reverse Flash, of course, Ebert Thawne, and there's just so many damn Flashes. And
this is starting to sound like the TV show, and the reason why I stopped watching it.
It might be. I haven't actually followed the Flash series for a bit, but it's from what I understand of what's going on right now, yes, it just can't stop putting people with little lightning ears running really fast. And so Grodd is dying. He wants the speed. He thinks the Flash's enhanced healing abilities brought about by the Speed Force could possibly fix whatever his gorilla pneumonia is, and and so that's what he's been using Black Hole for. He's trying to harness.
So wait a minute, that's the exact same story that they just told in Wonder Woman. Somebody trying to use someone else's super speed to cure some sort of ailment.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that, and I reviewed these back to back.
I just blew Josh's mind. Awesome. Yes. Go me, go me, go me.
And I reviewed these back to back too, and it just never struck me.
Because you were so angry, Josh.
Yeah, because it's
is
just
anger. Is anger the true? Is that the emotion though? I'm more like, just I read this comic and I pick it up, and I'm just staring at the page, and I have to read it like 3 times, and I'm like, what the hell am I reading? What is this?
That is how I felt reading this. Hence my subtitle, What is even going on now?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, I only missed like an issue or two, and it's because I read the annual last. That had nothing to do with this. And just suddenly I go back like an issue later, and it's just, oh, okay, yeah. And also another detail, and this was kind of interesting, if a bit silly. Central City's frozen because Gorilla Grodd's taken the speed out of it.
But that part I liked.
I did like it. It's a little silly, but it's the right kind of silly.
Yeah, like comics are ridiculous, and the Flash has always been kind of extra ridiculous. I mean, this comic has a main antagonist that's a giant talking gorilla, so all right. And the Speed Force. Okay, so, and to this credit, the credit of this comic, the show, and Jeff Johns, when he was writing Flash, later Rebirth Flash, and naming conventions, yay. And even Bucelo and Manipool, who I really loved their Flash, they keep trying to make stories about the Speed Force, and that's a really bad idea. It's because to me, the Speed Force is at its best when we're not really talking about it all that much. Because it's sort of the Deus Ex Machina that explains why the Flash can do everything he does without, like, stripping his skin off when he starts running. It's the Force. As soon as you start explaining it, it's less fun.
He's got little Flashichlorians, I guess.
That's a yellow card. Katie, get him a yellow card.
I don't have any on me. I need to make my own yellow cards. That's something I should get. Like, Bill should make me a sound effect where I can blow a whistle on someone. No, bad. Got my eyes on you.
They make this story about the Speed Force a bit, and almost entirely of Flash Rebirth Flash, whatever, has been kept coming back to the Speed Force, and you don't need to explain it, because the more you explain it, the dumber it gets. Just let him be the gotta go fast guy. Let him be. And it doesn't help that Barry, and this isn't as prevalent in this issue, but he's been so angsty in Flash Rebirth. He's so, and it's not like, first of all, Barry's supposed to be one of the more upbeat heroes, so he's not like Batman or Hawkman. Even though Hawkman's the right kind of grumpy. He's the grumpy that ends with him beating you with a mace. He's not, he's supposed to be more upbeat, but it gets into like Spider-Man 3 territory of just so emo, please. But without the disco dancing, which is, of course, the best part.
That's the best part of that movie.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna probably butcher this name. I'm sorry. Carmine D. Giadomenico comes back as the artist, and that was all right. He gives like a nice little like style kind of flavor to the world, even if I'm not sure it's that well suited for the Flash, because it's really shaded and detail heavy.
It's very stiff.
Yeah. But this comic does look good, and also to actually, pay lip service to the color artist, because people don't do that often enough. Ivan Placencia's color art actually really makes this look a lot better than it could have, because there's like a really nice contrast, like the pale blue of like the frozen central city, and like the lightning and the Flash's red costume going on in the foreground. So it's a decent looking book, but just I can't deal with I can't deal.
He can't even. He's broken. Jeremy, would you like to take over now that Josh is broken?
I know that Flash Wars is coming in this book. Yes, that is the name of the storyline that's going to be coming with all of these different speedsters.
There's going to be more flashes.
It's called Flash Wars.
Yeah, it's going to end up being like 22 pages of just like lightning crashing against each other, and then the end. And
it's gonna be like reading. It's gonna be like watching a Michael Bay movie, and that you have no idea what the fuck is going on in any of the scenes, because you can't keep track of when anybody is. But this is gonna be solid pictures, so you should be able to keep track.
And every time they do, like Josh has said, every time they do a Flash story now, like like current Rebirth stuff, it's so damn confusing for no reason. There's no reason for it to be as confusing as it is on the page. There's no reason to be as just be straightforward and tell us what is happening that we're seeing with our eyes, and give us strong Flash stories, and we won't complain, because Flash, eventually we're also going to get Jay Garrick back. And that's just going to be, and that might even be how Flash Wars ends. Somehow we'll get Jay Garrick back, and hopefully most of the speedsters go away, and we can get back to just strong Barry solving crimes, fighting like weird rogues, and that's all we get. That's all I need from a Flash book.
But again, this is another character that should be they should be putting a lot of effort into this character, because they've got the TV show. They just introduced him into the DCEU. I mean, I know a lot of people that didn't like Ezra Miller at the Flash. I found him kind of endearing for some reason. He was probably one of the people I disliked the least.
He was okay.
Damning with fine praise.
I know, right?
I didn't buy him as like a hero.
Yeah, I bought him more as Barry Allen than I did as the Flash.
Yeah, so I don't know. Well, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
But I still haven't actually seen Justice League.
And actually, in the way this book is going, I wonder if they're gonna do a crisis level type thing at the end of Flash Wars and have Barry go away and have Wally take over. But I don't know. That might be crazy. But I could see them trying that for a little while.
Yeah, there's something towards the end of the story definitely foreshadows that idea. Though, if they bring back Jay, ends up bringing back the Justice Society, I might be able to forgive a lot of this. That's
not going to happen until Doomsday Clock's over. There ain't no way you're getting the JSA in the DC Rebirth universe before that storyline's over, my friend.
You're probably right, but I miss
that is not happening.
I love the Justice Society so much.
So do I.
Also, as kind of a non sequitur, I kind of wish they'd bring back the Daniel Westerverse Flash. That actually turned out to be my favorite Flash.
They might as well. Ever. Every other version of a speedster's in this story. I'm sure he will make an appearance at some point.
They keep going on about Wally's daddy issues, wee Wally's daddy issues. So I don't know. He was actually a really compelling villain. Like, that was my favorite part of the Fusiletta and Maniple stuff. Yeah. I like this also kind of like demonic red and black speedster uniform with flying spikes that he can shred you with.
The Red Death should be in this book too from Metal. Just throw them all in there, everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever run fast at any point in their life can be.
What's the name of the super Fastback, the turtle? Fastback. Fastback, the little super speed turtle. Is that his name?
Of them. Frog. Just put a Thor helmet on a frog and just. We're not saying it's Throg, but it's Throg.
Oh, just bring all the Kryptonians too. They're really fast. I mean,
yeah, Superman's fast. Why isn't Superman in this book?
Crypto.
Go
with the animal aesthetic. Let's bring in Crypto, Supergirl.
Basically, what it boils down to is the Flash doesn't feel special anymore. and they need to get back to making the Flash feel special.
Okay, that's one more bit I gotta go on about. 4 full pages, two spreads, going over his backstory again.
Oh, so it's Jeff Johns' Green Lantern.
I mean,
every issue of Green Lantern, you don't need to read the first 10 pages of dialogue because it's always, I'm Hal Jordan, Green Lantern of Sector 2014, and I found my ring, blah, 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 blah. First 10 pages, every single issue.
That's what got me, because that's the thing. Williamson has kind of gone over the backstory of the Flash over and over again, and like conversation. He keeps talking about his dead mom. It's kind of weird.
Just all they need now is to have Batman's parents killed in the first 5 pages of every damn comic book.
I was about to say it. Like the TV show really, really propelled Barry into the limelight. Like, my parents know the Flash's origin story because they watched the first season of the show, and my parents are not that target demographic at all.
And we've been reading Flash comics since the Silver Age.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to maybe kick off a story, either kicking off maybe with the first issue doing that, or maybe kicking off a plot, maybe do the first part of a story arc, maybe doing that. Okay, here we finished up this story arc, now we're going to move into the next one, and maybe we should do another, quick recap, just in case somebody else is just joining in. But every issue, that's ridiculous. There's no reason for that.
They try to use it as a pseudo plot device here, because Grodd knows who Barry is, which I don't know why that matters to a talking gorilla. It's like Darkseid knowing Clark Kent. I mean, what's he going to do with that? But yeah, so he tries to break the Flash by oh, you were nothing until you had the Speed Force. I really wish I could do a good Powers Booth impression. I loved his voice from the Justice League cartoon as Grodd. But you're nothing without the Speed Force. You're just a sad guy with a lonely job. He talks about his lonely job.
It's DC getting away with having a recap page without having a recap page.
In 4 pages, and it's a spread, and it's just, that's so much fat you could have trimmed there. I know distilling these stories and decompressing them is a big thing right now because that sells more issues, but it's so blatant here. It's just, we know Barry's story. We've talked about it a surprising amount in the series, even when it's not relevant to what's going on. So why now with the talking gorilla?
Anyway.
Do you feel better now?
Yes, I actually do.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad we got to purge some bile. Why don't you tell people where they can watch you purge bile in written form?
Lost in the Speed Force, and also at Bleeding Cool, where
I broke Jeremy.
That's the best description of our jobs ever.
Purging bile.
In written form.
All over Bleeding Cool, and for some reason they let me put it up there. And talking. So, okay, yes. I'm a Bleeding Cool reviewing comics and having a hard time stringing 2 thoughts together. And also on Twitter at Josh Davison Bolt, because the Thunderbolts are life.
Jeremy?
My bile spewing is on Cool. And then, also on where better place to spew bile than on Twitter at Jeremy Ohio.
That's the tagline to put to Twitter. Spew your bile here. Hashtag spew your bile. You can read me spewing my bile about movies that I don't like on Bleeding Cool, and you can see me get really angry about current events on Twitter at Katie's Movies. Have a good night, everybody. See ya.